Good morning and welcome back. Welcome back to Who Am I? That show that asks the question, Who am I? In reference to source energy. Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? How did I get here? What is the meaning of my life? How do I work my biotechnological equipment? How do I function? Uh, This morning we're going to try something a little bit different. I already did my regular show earlier where I do what I usually do. I come into the studio and I just riff for an hour and a half or so about the nature of existence and the nature of life itself. But for the very first time this morning, we have ourselves a guest. And I've been making noises for a while about needing somebody else in the room to talk. And well, here we're going to give it our first try. If it doesn't work, you will never know because I will not publish this. So, but you may laugh in the background. I'm not going to hide your existence there. I'm also not going to say who it is. This is just a really smart person. She's a millennial. She has the concerns of most regular human beings here on planet Earth at this time. Um, Now, I probably should cue up the discussion a little bit more, but at some point, this is going to start flowing very naturally. It may sound a little awkward at the beginning because we're trying to get our sea legs, and it does take us a moment to find our flow in this. We are talking about source energy. What the hell is source energy? Some of you might say. Well, it is the source of all things. It's the source of who you are, and what it is makes a lot of difference as to how reality unfolds around you. There are two reasons why we have this discussion, two practical reasons. The rest are all philosophical, and you'll pick up on all the philosophical ones easy enough. The two practical reasons we do this is, number one, we need to understand ourselves. Who am I? How do I live my life? How do I find success? What is success? Well, first of all, you aren't successful if you aren't happy. That's one of my definitions of success. But how do you achieve that success? How do you get from where you are to where you want to be? How do you make your dreams come true? How do you find your happily ever after? Well, I believe that the way you do that, one of the best ways to do it, is to understand freaking reality and line up with it. Line up with what the rest of it wants and learn to play nice with the field around you, and you will find cooperative components everywhere. So we want to understand source energy from our own personal biotechnological equipment standpoint so that we understand. And what do I mean by that? I mean, what the hell do our emotions mean? It's not necessarily an existential direct read on whether what you're looking at is good or bad, or whether you should be changing it or not, or what you should be doing. It's nothing like that. You need to understand your own equipment if you want to understand your own emotions. And then the second reason we do this is, as humanity, I believe that we need to, should to, have to, ought to, must to, whatever, we need to get off fossil fuels. And I believe that we can way more easily than anybody has been pretending like we can. I think we have been sold a bill of goods. I think that it is an outrage. I believe in all kinds of conspiracy theories, blah, 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 all of that. However, since I also understand how our equipment works, I understand that running around with your hair on fire or being all upset or outraged or looking at it from any kind of a negative vantage point is not going to accomplish what you actually want. It's not going to get you where you want to go. And where do we want to go? We want to get to a place where where we are off of fossil fuels, and I believe that we can. And I believe that our understanding of source energy, our better understanding of source energy, will get us to that place. Now, I have long wanted someone in the room with me to discuss this topic. I have no practice whatsoever in doing this in the format of my show, so forgive me if this is rough at first, but I'd like to welcome our guest into the studio. Her name is, what is your name? Is it Lily? What was your name? Francine?
Yes, that's, in the interest of who am I hadn't even thought about who the hell I am.
Come up with a nice alter ego, because our actual true egos, we got to check them at the door. This is not about me aggrandizing myself or you. I would like at some point to have a successful YouTube channel, but that's not exactly the main focus of my goal. My goal ultimately is to raise consciousness so that we have a more peaceful planet, so that there's more abundance created for all of us, so that we can all stick around and have fun in this wonderful field that we are, this divine matrix that we are dancing in. So what did we decide your name was? Is it Lillian? Is it Francine? Is it something else?
In some of my walks of life, I go by Fawn, the deer fawn, D-E-A-R, but because I'm punny, so they can just call me Fawn.
All right, Fawn. I actually have not ever identified myself on this show either, because it is also not about my ego identity. You can just call me Amelie Starchild. How's that for my my alter ego?
Starchild, I love it.
So we're going to talk today about what we always talk about. I never know exactly what's the most interesting part of. So I want to be the star of this, but at times I know that you will have a meaningful, because I know you, and I know that you can put words together very nice indeed. Thank you very much. We will let you have the floor a lot of the time. I want us together to help illuminate such things as a better understanding of the law of attraction, so that people really understand what it means when you get a dose of negative emotion, what that actually means.
Yes. I can do that, and absolutely take the floor. And when the spirit moves me, I will add those relevant tidbits.
Okay, so we're going to begin at the beginning, because I actually have a circle of information that I want to try to cover. My show doesn't really cover outside of this circle, but when you fill in this circle, you realize how big this circle really is. So there's a lot to talk about within this field of information. We're going to, let's see, we've got law of attraction, we've got the steps of creation. I want you, my guest in studio, to help me be my audience in a way. And when I'm going to start to describe this thing, and when I'm not clear about something and you want me to fill it in, maybe you, Fawn, actually do know what I'm talking about, but you realize that what I have described is not particularly clear. Could you please clarify for the audience? And you can say that at that time. You could even add your own description of whatever it is I've left out or whatever. Let's try to do this together. I am the only one who's done this show for the last 90 episodes, so I don't mind taking the lead, but I very much want you to have a meaningful part in this show. I don't want to just use you as...
Thank you. I think I understand that assignment. So let's...
Okay. So there are two aspects to this, and at some point it may become apparent that we're leaning more one direction than the other. The two aspects of the whole thing, because the question is, who am I? And the reference is source energy. And I believe with all my heart that source energy can be understood a lot more matter-of-factly than we have been dealing with it. Mostly because people's knowledge of source energy actually comes to them from their religions, and instead of talking about it in terms of physics or mathematics or energies or whatever, they're taught to think about in terms of God and demons and whatnot, and so it gets a little bit scrambled. But if we understand our own biotechnological equipment, our own vibrational beingness, then we understand the meaning of our negative emotions and our positive emotions and what we are even doing on this. Who am I? How did I get here? What do I even want to talk about? And let me finish my first thought. So one is a very personal view of this from an individuated standpoint. How do I, in my individual skin, interpret the energies around me, and how do I move my ship forward? That's one aspect of this big conversation. The other one is a better understanding of this helps us realize, first of all, that we should not be on fossil fuels. We should have incrementally been moving off of it for the last century.
Yes.
Let that sink in for a minute, because that makes me furious at somebody.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
The assholes with the $1 billion yachts and stuff who it's probably 400 families at the most worldwide.
Yes, they're all in Monaco right now, everybody. They're all having their yacht races this summer.
That's right. Or they're just, basking in the Cayman Islands, renewing their yacht registration, because that's where they're all registered.
That's true. Before they go to Monaco, because I can't remember, it's sometime I think it's June when they have all the stuff going on in the French Riviera.
And holy
you're right,
cow.
they have to make a stop to the Caymans first.
Holy cow, are those yachts magnificent.
Beautiful.
Oh my God. Some of them have, the good ones have helicopters on them. The really good ones have 2 helicopters on them and little boats attached and
yachts attached to yachts. Yeah.
I mean, they are amazing. And so actually this brings us to a part of the conversation that it's a big part of the conversation, because on the one hand, we have been had, and I am outraged, and there's all kinds of conspiracies out there keeping us in this place. On the other hand, this is the actual truth of the situation. There is only one of us here. There is no us and them.
Yep.
It is all us. And it is, Abraham tells us this all the time, that you can't want to be a billionaire and, on the other hand, sit there in judgment of anybody that has any prosperity going.
Yep.
Yes. What you've done when that happens is you've crossed your own energy stream. And if you're a fan of the show, and actually I say that there isn't...
You can't believe in abundance and then also believe that there is only a finite amount of resources and pie for everybody, and therefore be angry at those that have. If you truly believe in abundance, then you can't believe that the people that have something are against you in a way. I mean, there's also the aspect of we've been had, as you've mentioned, but there's also the how do you go about really changing how we're having, if you will.
That's right. And actually that is a very good point, because, and the answer lies in, it doesn't even matter if we've been had, and it doesn't matter. The conspiracies, you don't have to push against any of that. And my analogy for regular watchers of the show, this is where it comes in. If it's the turn of the 19th and 20th century, it's like right there at 1900, and you can see that we need to develop the car industry, and you want to see more cars, and you want to see less horses and buggies, because they treat those horses so bad. Did you ever see Black Beauty? Oh my God! So you want to push against the horse and buggy buggy industry. Well, you don't need to
Yeah.
push against the horse. You don't need to get out there with your signs, picket signs, and protest. Just go build cars. And
Yes.
in this case, it's exactly the same way, because I believe that it is our rising consciousness, our knowing who we are and what is possible, will lead us directly to the dream come true and the happily ever after that humanity is looking for. And we do
Agreed.
not have to push against anybody who's doing anything else around you. Just go straight for what you want. Quit pushing against what you don't want.
That absolutely, absolutely. And that is something that, I have been mentioning as to, there was a good example in my own personal life that I was, helping a friend with, who basically, they've had some relationship issues are a huge one. So,
Yeah.
you don't want something that you see in your previous relationships. There's an aspect of that, that didn't go well, and so the way that most people go about things is, and relationships are a really good example because of how personal they feel, and so therefore sometimes it's very hard to, kind of get back out of that, the confusion of what your emotions are supposed to be. And so people will oftentimes lean into the sorrow and the tragedy of it, not realizing what those signals are supposed to be teaching them
Yeah.
and supposed to be guiding them to. So if you've been in a situation where, even some of the most heinous situations where there was abuse or neglect, those things that we can all agree are things that are painful to feel, oftentimes will misinterpret them into being such that, oh, well, I don't want that kind of a person anymore because they are the ones that neglected me or they did this. And so then oftentimes people are looking for almost the opposing, because
Yeah.
they're looking for something that feels like or appears that it is the opposite of that. So it's like, well, that person was a workaholic and that's why they neglected me, so now I have to. And the folly in looking for things that are like when you're resisting the thing that you think that you don't want. So you're resisting the horses being harmed, and you're getting out there with your picket signs instead of just, leaning into the progress of what could actually lift us out of these things. Or you're in a relationship and you're trying to oppose the thing that you didn't want
Yeah.
because of whatever conclusions you drew. Then oftentimes you are following the breadcrumbs from the feeling of the negative feeling, the feeling of the thing you didn't want, and so it isn't actually bringing you closer to the thing you want. It might be a different thing than the negative. Now you're not with a workaholic, you're with a deadbeat. Whatever.
Yeah.
Or you're instead of being with a passive person, you're with a hothead, because and you didn't actually really find happiness, because instead of leaning into
Yeah.
how it is that you're supposed to find happiness, you're leaning away from what your accidental perception of what you think you don't want is, and so you're going at it from a negative perspective.
Absolutely. Actually, it turns out that your ability to achieve success, it comes from your focus, not your action. Now, as
Yes.
human beings in these modern times, we are taught that it is our action that brings us our success, but it is not our action that brings us our success. It is the way that we focus is what brings you your success. So, are you focusing upon what you don't like, or are you focusing on what you want? Now, often, so I'm going to
Yes.
switch to a different slide here. I'm going to actually, this is my. So, the name of the show is Who Am I? And we're going to talk about this. Us as being binary systems. We are binary systems. We are, and I don't think there's much of a question about whether we're a binary system. I think you can just assume that you are a binary system and go with it. The words that I like to use, the way that we are going to delineate this. And why do I do this? I wish I wouldn't jump so quick. Hold on a second. So I've put up one of my favorite slides up here. I don't know where we took a pause, me and my guest, and I'm not sure exactly what we were talking about when we left. So we're just going to circle back around and find our way. We're always talking about the same subject. The subject is, what is source energy? What does it have to do with me? And what does it have to do with the way the paradigms of our species, how they're playing out right now, both politically, economically, ecologically? Usually, now, the guest that I have in the studio, although she is a fan of the show, has not really listened to any of them. So she is not a fan because she's listened to it. She's a fan because she knows me and she understands what it is that I'm trying to convey with this. But
Yes.
if she did listen to the show a lot, she would know that. Wait a second. Uh, Often I brush in a very general way upon what I see as the great woes of the world. And we're only going to touch upon them very tangentially. And the reason is once you understand how your equipment actually works, you understand that the object of the exercise is actually to learn how to focus your attention upon the aspects of the world that you prefer. And that because your success is going to lie in your ability to focus, not in your ability to act with your hands and your shoulders and move mountains and move stuff from over here to over there and then back over to here, or dig holes or whatever. It's not your physical action that is bringing about your success in your life. It's how you learn to focus. And if
Yeah.
you can learn to focus upon the aspects of the world that you prefer, then the aspects of the world that you prefer will begin to grow. And why does. So I almost lost track of what I was saying. So the woes of the world are as follows, just in a general way. Sixth mass extinction, people. We are killing the planet, literally, planeticide. Sixth mass extinction, and from what I understand, it's as faster than any other previous mass extinction, and it is all because of the actions of human beings. But it's really because we burn fossil fuels. That's the actions. Or we mine lithium batteries, or we mine
Yep.
the kinds of things that we do. It's all bent towards our energy paradigm, and that, I believe, it's one of the prongs of this show. I believe we can get off of fossil fuels. I have lots of reasons for believing that we can get off fossil fuels, and at some point I would like to engage in the emotions of my fellow human beings to recognize how really freaking possible it is for us to get off fossil fuels. And it doesn't have to be. As a matter of fact, I would advise against the big one that everybody is waiting for. Ooh, the holy grail, the big kahuna. Clean fusion. The reason we don't want clean fusion is the same reason we don't want fossil fuels. It's the same reason we don't want any kind of nuclear energy, or even we don't want anything that produces a grid. We don't have to plug our technology into power that is brought to us along wires.
Yes,
Along
your
any.
Tesla is not saving the world either, guys.
No, which is ironic because Nikola Tesla could have saved the world. Do you know? Now
I know
this
they
is
did
in.
it dirty by using his name, but please tell me more.
Okay, I'll tell you what it is. So back in the 1800s, uh, uh, he was working on the Tesla Tower. Was a device. It was going to be a tower that broadcast a frequency. The frequency that it broadcast, I think it comes from. It's just out there in the universe. I'm not sure exactly how this worked. But what he was working on, and I don't think he got it all the way up to working stuff, but who knows, because when he died, somebody went in and stole all of his notes. We don't have all of his notes. We don't know what he was doing exactly. But when J.P. Morgan, who was his financier, his
Oh
financial
boy.
backer, realized that what Tesla was trying to do was broadcast a frequency that was going to give free energy to everybody, he yanked his funding because he didn't want everybody to have free, clean energy. He wanted to be able to sell them things. And so he was discredited. His money was, his backing was all, and then he dies in obscurity or whatever because his goal was to give everyone clean, free energy. And not only that, it was going to give them clean, free communications too. We don't need freaking 5G. We need the kind of communication tower that Tesla was working on.
Yes.
All
Yes,
of
yes,
these
yes.
all of these things are keeping us in a paradigm of lack and scarcity that is absolutely artificial.
Yes, isn't that the truth? And that, I think, is what really, back to my point, just real briefly, about what it is that I think paradoxically irks people. And I say paradoxically not because of that there isn't something wrong with it, but paradoxically in the sense that, I and many others want to believe in abundance, but we're also pissed off at, the current billionaires, that whole subject. It's because of the artificialness of how that sort of wealth is being made. Not that, but in order to not resist and move forward, we must lean into just doing the things that will bring us out of it, as opposed to getting just pissed off at billionaires.
Yeah.
Love you, Bernie, but I get you. But
Yeah.
also, that's not going to save us. But I think that is what the sour taste is in that gut sense, is that of that artificially manufacturing this need for energy and communications, as you said, and this is how people are keeping us enslaved to the lackfulness that isn't real.
So I don't know if you realize what is possible, but there's two levels that this could be approached. And the first one is just incremental 100 great ideas to incrementally make the load on the fossil fuels less and less and less. So many great ideas. There were ideas. One guy, he invented. He figured out a way to just change a regular internal combustion engine, like a regular car or motorcycle, that kind of a motor.
Sure.
Just change it a little bit so that then it would run on a mixture of mostly water with just a little bit of oil in it to keep the engine from seizing up. That was one idea that got deep sixed. Another one was a guy who came up with a completely different kind of motor, and that motor could just run on water. There was another one that was a solar panel that was just way, way, way too efficient. Again, deep six, deep six, deep six, all the way across the board. There, in the Thrive 2 movie, there's a guy from Africa who comes up with a device that it locks into a steady state frequency out there in the universe somewhere. And by it's on that frequency, and then it just does whatever it does. It's about the size of a gas pump. And it can produce enough electricity to run like 300 houses. All of these are over units, so this is where the outrage is going to come in. I'm going to get you to be outraged just a little bit and to see how big this conspiracy goes. And how small I feel in a way, because almost everybody out there who has been conventionally educated is going to disagree with me. But it's because you don't know. The fact is we have been led to believe that there is no such thing as an over-unity device. That you can't have a machine that puts out more energy than you put in to run it. And that is just not true. The reason that they think it's true is because they start with a closed system. But there is no such thing as a closed system. And that's actually how come you can have these devices. What we need to do as a nation, if we understood that it was possible, we could just call for great ideas. Let's solve this from the bottom up with 100,000 great ideas from the brightest minds out there. But you gotta let people know that it's possible.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're waiting for the big fix. They're waiting for the big for all of our conventional physicists to get together and then pronounce this big thing, and then collectively we'll all just move towards it, and then magically we'll be off fossil fuels, and all of a sudden the paradigm's going to be fair, right? No, that is not what's going to happen. And what's happening right now is that this centralization of power, of energy, that kind of power, is causing a centralized other kind of power.
Yes.
And it's forcing everybody across the world to, in order to tap into the, I call it the supply stream of humanity, which is the goods that we all produce, or the fossil fuels, or the boats, the yachts, the technologies of all sorts, or the foodstuffs, or whatever. In order to have our share of that supply, we have to monetize. And it's increasingly difficult for anybody, no matter how beautiful of a natural system they have to work with, to get along in a natural way without monetizing, because of this paradigm of energy scarcity that is actually completely unnatural.
Yes, I buy it. I completely buy it.
Can you understand what I'm saying here? We do not have to live in this paradigm. There need be no war. Remember, actually, I was going to do the little litany of the woes of humanity. It's a very short list, but they're huge. 6 mass extinction, war, world poverty, garbage island, global warming. You know, the list is huge, not to mention authoritarian psychosis, people. That one's coming down the tracks at us.
Yes.
And all of these things, I believe, can be solved if we knew who we were.
Yeah.
Because I actually believe that our physical equipment, our physical/vibrational equipment, is on it and is able to help us as human beings get out of our problems. But remember, I said that it's all about focus. It's not about action. And so the focus we have to do is we have to focus upon where we are going and what we want, not where we are and what we don't like.
Yep.
That's hard to do, because the where we are and what we don't like has all of our attention. But it doesn't need to be. We need to remember that we are star beings. We are beings of light traversing a limitless universe. We are not the physical beings trotting a physical path like we imagine that we are. We really aren't. And so what we need to remember is to focus on where we're going. Quit focusing on where we are. It's sort of like if you had your windshield in the floorboards of your car and you started staring at the pothole right there in the road, and the next thing you know, your vehicle is stalled out and you're staring at the pothole going, oh my God, it's so bad. What do I do? Get your eyes off the frickin' pothole and remember where we're going.
Yes.
Where are we going? We are going to a place where we know where we are. Where we know who we are. This is Abraham's vortex of creation that humanity has been working on for thousands of years. This better to the better to the better, the more efficient, the more whatever. It really is where we are headed when we understand who we really are and where the power is. What they say in the movie, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, which I'm going to post as always. Here's my list of links that I put in my description of the video so that you can go. It's like my mixtape for humanity. Here it is.
There it is.
In The Lost Century, they talk about where we're going and where we've been and how to get where we're going. And where are we going? We're getting to the place where we know who and what we are. And the reason that's going to be important is because First of all, if you recognize the magical nature of this divine matrix that we are in, you would understand that we have everything we need to get out of every problem that we have. We really do. We just need to focus more on who we are, how it works, and where we're going, as opposed to continuing to look around and say, oh yeah, but people are bad and nobody's ever going to do that. And, you know, I don't know. You start talking about where we're going, and people will stop you right in your tracks by pointing out where we are.
Yes. Interest rates and the fentanyl, epidemic, and stuff that's like, sure, fine, but also
Yeah.
exactly what you're saying, which is that's the focusing on where we are, and therefore paralyzing you in the. It's kind of like I was using with that relationship analogy. If you're only looking at the things that you don't want, then you might be able to reshuffle the deck of unwanted things into things that look different than the exact bad thing that you were just experiencing, but you're just shuffling the deck of things you don't want instead of really looking powerfully forward to what is possible.
An important thing to understand in this is the important part that your state of being plays in this equation. Most people think that the physical universe is playing out there separate from their emotions and their attitudes about them, and that just is not true. Your emotions are actually your indication of whether you are moving in the direction of what you want, or whether you are moving in the exact 180 degrees opposite of the direction that you want. And that's basically the kind of yes no sort of setup that it is. I have this slide right here that I show often, the 4 general states of being. It looks like there's something that's corrupting the picture. I don't know what is going on there.
That's interesting. Well, you can see the important parts.
Yeah, you can see the important parts. The whole idea being your positive or negative state is telling you, it's your inner being, it's how you are resonating or not resonating with your vibrational big greater self. And so when you feel bad, you're not doing a very good job of harmonizing with, you're not resonating with your broader perspective. And so that is why when you feel in a state of negative emotion, that is your inner being telling you that right in this moment, you are walking in 180 degrees opposite of the direction of which one you want to be. Now, your specific is your gas pedal. So if you're in a negative state, do not go specific. Don't try to solve any of your problems from a negative state of being. You won't solve a single one of them. You will just make it worse. You'll just tangle it up worse.
Yep.
Now, what you may be getting to is a realization of that fact. So the more you do that, the more it is being obvious that that's how it is. And if you don't know how that is, then it's really important that that's what you keep doing. So that it's like what Abraham says, if you don't understand something, don't worry. If you don't understand, if you aren't getting the message, don't worry, it'll get bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't worry, it'll get worse.
Yes.
And when it's finally big enough, then we will all see it. And as a matter of fact, at some point later on in the discussion, it may be later this year, it may be next year. I'm not sure exactly when this is going to come up. But I'm pretty sure that the specter of authoritarian psychosis is going to be a really big fixture in our general discussions. And what's going to be splashed around the news is going to be big visual aids for us to point at.
Yes. The conversation is going to get very
lively.
Very easy to have.
Yes, indeed. Really
Yeah,
obvious.
more of this very nuanced conversation about the complexities and the philosophies of political science. It'll just be very bullet point by bullet point easy to discuss.
That's right. Now, it is very important that as we look at things that are things that we do not like or do not want, that you don't let yourself get unplugged from your source. And what does it mean to be plugged into your source? It means so this is the explanation. The fact is you are, whether you like it or not, There is no escape from this, no matter what. You are an eternal positive being. And I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Hitler. You are
Yeah.
a positive being. And that is actually why life went so bad for him.
Uh-huh.
Because he went against who he really was and persisted in a negative. Negative, negative, blameful, judgeful, blah, blah, blah. All of that is out of alignment with who you really are. And that is the explanation of everything that you see around you. All of the suffering, the human created suffering, is coming from human beings not knowing who they are and not being in alignment with their greater self. This brings us to this slide, the five kleshas, considered to be the root causes of all suffering. This is from Buddhist philosophy. And look at how this relates to what our conversation is. Oh, who am I? Who am I? And how does my equipment actually work? What is this medium that I am swimming in? This divine matrix that is absolutely connected to all things. How do you it's actually quite magical. We are amazing creatures. And that's why I would like to lead the human discussion, bend it more in the direction of let's focus on how cool this setup is, how empowered human beings really are to create abundance and solve all of the problems that I already listed earlier. Don't need to list them again. Let's focus that way. Focus on what we prefer. Focus on where we are going. Where are we going? We are going in the direction of that which we prefer. We really are. But the more that our physical brains think that they are running the show and try to mess with it and try to lead the way when they don't know what they're doing and believe the negative mind and all that, the more we do that, the more we slow our progress down.
Yes.
We could be moving a lot faster towards that smarter world that IBM promises us, you know.
Yes. Yes, exactly. No, absolutely. And the focusing on, what is possible. I always get, uh, what's the word? I always have a funny feeling about it when the
Yeah.
promise for something is limiting, obviously. So, if the answer to this is that the answer to the problem is that there isn't enough of something, there isn't
Yeah.
enough food, or there
Yeah.
isn't enough space, or that's when I'm like,
Money.
no, that's still fundamentally looking at things, from a fearful or negative perspective. For me lately, the practice has been to, even if it's just a practice, a meditation, if you will, has been to really expand upon just feeling what possible feels like,
Yeah.
whatever possible is.
Yeah.
And if we're talking about, technology, great, but I'm just literally getting into the feeling of possible. If I start to feel,
Perfect.
edging towards it not being possible, then regardless of what it is, I back off about the idea and continue to feel what I feel possible feels like.
That is absolutely, you have nailed. That is exactly the method that you should use because our physical minds actually don't know how to play this out. But our broader perspective really does. And that place where you feel the possible, where you feel interested and excited, and
Yes.
that's you blending with you very well. And you keep doing that, and step by step by step, one step at a time, you will walk directly into your dreams come true.
Yep.
Eh,
And I don't know what, like you just said, I don't have a specific, I know it's going to be this, or I'm going to be the one that comes up with the next great engine that is going to save us. I don't have the specifics, but back to that, the gas and the brake and the positive, or not just brake, but
this
the
one.
accelerator, that's the word. Yeah, there you go, the general states of being. Thank you. Going back to that, I've been very much if going specific starts to make me feel like something isn't possible, whether it's because, of propaganda that I've accidentally digested,
Yeah.
or, whatever it
Or
is,
personal experience that has shown you.
yeah, yeah, personal trauma, or, people themselves telling me it's not possible, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be, I ease off the accelerator, because what's more important to me right now in my life personally and I think it should be, everybody's priority, but that's very bold of me. Is feeling like stuff is possible. If somebody starts to make me feel like, but what about, I was discussing this about, again, where just on a personal level, like where it is that I could move, and because I want to see more of the world and whatnot, and being told, well, that place has been corrupted because of this thing, or that place is too expensive, or this place is too this or that, or there's too many people, or any of those things that people, and I'm using those specific examples not to drag us down, but to mainly explain where people accidentally go into the impossible. They may think that they're being practical, but they are practicing impossibilities.
Actually, Bashar has an interesting formula for this, and it's got kind of a jazzy ring to it. It's kitschy, easy to remember.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, go for it. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I like it being pithy.
Yeah, it's really easy to remember. So it's insistence equals resistance. And
yes, I like that one.
What it means is that your insistence on it playing out in a particular way actually translates into resistance against. So it's like the idea of abundance. The universe is giving you abundance, and it's giving it to you in all kinds of ways. Many avenues that could lead you to the way to co-create with everything around us in order to create massive abundance. So there was plenty of everything for everybody. We're getting ideas about it all the time. But say if, for instance, you have translated abundance only equals dollars in my bank account, and you stand there and you're staring at your bank account and it's not ticking at all. You're like, I keep insisting that money has to come through my bank account. Then you're missing the fact that somebody is over there they're trying to knock on the door, trying to hand you something, which is exactly what you need. That if you would take it and then walk 3 steps down, whatever, follow some impulse, and then the next thing you know, then there is the abundance. But if you're insisting that it happen in only one way, like maybe it's a relationship, you're insisting it has to come through Bill.
Yes.
Or Sally Lou.
Or a dude named Bill or a dude named John. Yep, exactly.
If you're insisting that it has to be that one way, then you keep chasing perhaps something that you're resonating with because you're actually focusing on all these negatives, and you're missing the absolute perfect person for you that maybe you just walked past and didn't give him the time of day, or whatever. Your insistence, if you just could open your heart to this faithful knowing that the universe is beneficent and it is organized and organizing you. Organizing on what basis is it? It's on the basis of love and win across the board, because from the allness's point of view, there is only one of us here, and the allness wants us all to dance co-creatively and spectacularly and joyfully. And human beings can be an enormous part of that, because human beings are amazing and wonderful and blessed in so many ways. We just have to know who we are and quit focusing and believing our freaking negative minds, because it's creating all kinds of havoc in the world out there.
Yep. Hot damn, no notes. I mean, I know that that's not what my point is here. But I got no notes. I 100% agree.
So anyway, let's what we're gonna call these guest shots that we do with you. The aim is gonna be for 1 hour long. Okay.
Okay.
So we
Yep.
have about 10 more minutes that we can talk about this subject. We can.
And I've got 10 more minutes before somebody's going to knock on my door. So there you go. It's all
Okay.
meant to be.
All right. Perfect. And then let's try to do that in the weeks to come. I've got a vacation coming up, so I'll be out of town for part of that. But as often as we can, let's get together and do this.
I'm in. This was fun.
So let's see what you as a human being here on planet Earth, 21st century, bring up a topic, any topic, and we're going to circle it back around to source energy and who am I?
A topic.
Yeah, we're going to play a game here.
Let's play a game.
Let's play a game. Who am I? We could start with politics. We could start with relationship.
There is the hot. I actually haven't been following it very hotly, but there is the fact that Trump did get he was
convicted.
Convicted. That's the word I'm looking for. Convicted.
I don't know what that's going to do.
What'd you say?
I don't know what that's going to accomplish, but
I know exactly, and I haven't been following it well enough to get really interested. So that's probably not a great topic.
Actually, you know what? We're gonna jump in right here. This is not the worst topic I've ever heard of. And
okay,
as
cool.
a matter of fact, I watched something interesting this morning. It was a little clip. Somebody's news. They had interviewed Bill Maher about something, which I thought was kind of interesting because I remember Bill Maher, 8 years ago, he pretty much had his hair absolutely on fire. And
yes.
He's gotten to a more stoic place where he has, and
Unless
actually...
you bring up Israel, but that's a whole other thing.
What?
Unless you bring up Israel, his hair's still on fire there.
Oh,
but he has
okay.
gotten to a stoic place about other stuff. But we can talk about the topic that you want to talk about, because I like it.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty interesting. But what he was saying, and it's absolutely the truth. This is his prediction, and he's right. Whatever happens, no matter who wins, next year on January 20th, Trump is going to show up to that signing in.
Yeah, that's true.
He's absolutely right about that.
That's hilarious.
It is hilarious, and it's so true. It absolutely is true. It
so
doesn't matter who wins, and we're going to have some really interesting shit on our hands. And it almost doesn't matter now who's running, and it almost doesn't matter who wins, because this is just going to play out in some really absurd ways. And we're going to have to think about it. We're going to have to deal with it. On the one hand, I do say on my show all the time that there is no us and them. When on the other hand, there is so obviously an us and them.
Absolutely. There's so obviously those that are
absolutely.
Those ones that are reasonable, of course, yes.
The problem is that ultimately the fact is that there really is no us and them, and your neighbor is your unknown self made visible. That's Khalil Gibran. I used to think it came from his work, The Prophet, but I actually don't think it came from The Prophet. I think it came from somewhere else. But it absolutely is Khalil Gibran, and it is absolutely true. Your neighbor is your unknown self made visible. And so we are all in this together. The fact is when you look at, I'm sitting here on an absolutely meaningless slide. Have you noticed that? Oh dear, it doesn't matter. Let's see. Let me put it. Let's go back to this one, I guess.
Amelia-nize. At least it's cute, and that's going to be how we feel in a lot of ways. So there you
Both
go.
of those spinning, by the way.
Yes, exactly.
No, we have a lot to say about this whole topic, actually. Authoritarian psychosis, what it is, how to recognize the nature of it, how to understand it in yourself. We got a lot of words we can talk about. We can talk about everything from Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body.
Yes.
Paul Levy calls it Wetiko disease. Carl Jung called it authoritarian psychosis, but then he also talked about autonomous complexes, these parts, these energies in yourself that it's like different emotional frequencies that may or may not be tagged into your whole conscious self. Anyway, we'll talk about this in the days to come. Our guest has to
Oh,
leave
yes.
us in about 5 minutes. She's got an appointment somewhere else. I already did a show by myself earlier on, so I don't really need to keep recording this. Uh,
All right.
but here, so let's wrap it up. Let's
Okay.
wrap it up. Where did we end up? I'll tell you where we ended up. I'll
Tell me.
tell you what the takeaway from this show, what I mean it to be. So we're going to traverse a lot of territory that feels, we're going to touch on negative things. We're going to touch on positive things, things we don't like, things we like better. We're going to discuss the nature of all of existence itself. But what I want you to take away from this is this: you are an eternal continuum of desire and expression to the more, 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 more. You are becoming more. You are here eternally. You are a full continuum. You are connected to all of the rest of the field. We are driving a version of vehicle that is, we didn't even begin to talk about our genetic modification. We are the freaking jazziest. Somebody has pimped our ride
I love it. I love it. Yes.
to an amazing degree. And if we fully understood the equipment that we haven't been issued it, we came into it ourselves. This equipment is us. If we fully understood how to operate it, we could easily overcome all of the problems on planet Earth. So let's, instead of focusing on all the things that we don't like, let's focus on that future that all of us do want. And
Yeah.
let's come back into this space and talk about it in the hold on. Oh, so I want to thank the special guest that we had, and I would like to invite her back to do a weekly, sort of like a brunch with Bernie. We could call it brunch with Betty if her name was
Yes.
Betty. We could call her Betty. It doesn't matter.
Call me Betty. It doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly. We're still
I
landing on who I am, so I'm good with that.
I hope she absolutely comes back and joins us, because this was indeed a lot of fun. But until then, I want you to know that there is nothing but hope. We're going to dive into some of the darkest things that humanity fears and worries about, and we're going to come up on the other side of that and realize that there isn't one dang thing that we cannot overcome, given the matrix that we are in, that we are blessed to be a part of, and the species that we are a part of in this amazing vehicle that we are driving. There is nothing that we cannot overcome, and that's basically the thought I want to leave us with today. Do I hear an amen?
Amen. Hallelujah.
All right, and with that, I bid you peace. I wish you well, and may the source be with you.